Hey, I found a follow-up post to the one that I read to you guys last night, and this stuff is resonating with me. I mean, it's really, really, it's hitting me as this has got some truth in it. This has some truth in it. It's relevant to me. Maybe it will also be relevant to you. This is that same person, this Avalon Sol person. The way the way that he describes his process is exactly like mine is. And the information, it's like whoo, it's like as I'm reading it, it's like boom, boom, like punching me in the stomach. Like this is very impactful. This is very true and very important, at least for people like me running the same type of mission that I am. So I'm going to read this to you because I don't know how many of you people will see this otherwise. I know there's only going to be like 3 of you that listen to my video, but I expect other people will find it in the future. So here goes to start the reading. The first volume of my reports has now gone out to mankind in the Decoding the Hive series. Seeing it firsthand myself in assembled form has given me a perspective I never had before. Downloads have come to me repeatedly for many months on subjects that I literally knew nothing about before transcribing them to paper. The instinct or sense would just come often silently for me to look here and try this when researching, and there would be no real reason to do that, at least from my own hunch. But incredibly, I would not only find out that certain historic evidence would just be sitting there that would be directly connected to that subject I had been working on, and it would simply never occur to me the Sumerians would have had such an impact on the era, location, etc. I would literally hear words repeated to me in my head, words I simply had never spoken in my life regarding locations and eras I knew nothing about. There is simply no way a person could ever imagine these aren't direct messages for the benefit of the final graduating class to learn what is really needed in order to move on. Now I am going through the transposition of the text of that 580 pages into paperback form in order to offer the report through print version, and I see that is actually over 1,100 pages, and I don't even know if it will fit within the limits of their publishing parameters or not. I will attempt to reduce the pages by reducing image sizes, etc., but since we are only talking about maybe half of the already written reports, or 1/3, this is much more like War and Peace in size than I had thought. The other chapters will be following soon in separate volumes as I am able to get them assembled into coherent form. This is just to give you some idea of how many subjects are coming out now that are being addressed. This is the reveal mankind has been waiting for, as there are details about the hidden tools of enslavement explained within these pages that literally have not been spoken about here on this plane for at least hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years. There are such things as command templates that are behind every program ever rolled out by the world management team, Illuminati, that power their agenda through invisible means. If mankind were ever able to learn about them, they would learn how to disconnect themselves from these spells. I do not expect your captors will be very happy knowing this is now all coming to the light of day. So before I finish up the conversion of the rough draft into print form, I take a few minutes to address this issue that came up yesterday during an indigo christening, and that is what is really actually needed in order to move forward from here. I don't think I have ever had the mental frame of mind to really explain it before the reality struck me while editing the final 5 pages of the first report yesterday. The sheer overwhelming graphic I assembled impacted me on such a deep level. I realized up until this point, we have all been playing a game. Side note, whoever this person is, I feel that we are connected to the same stream of consciousness. Back to the reading. Now that you haven't, not that you haven't been earnest in your search to get to the truth, or I haven't already given my life in order for this message to get it to you. We have. But the command template program is simply much larger than humans could comprehend, and it is now extremely clear what we really have to do to break free of this eternal recycle, mind wipe, recycle, mind wipe, shampoo, rinse, repeat we have been locked in now for many hundreds of millions of lifetimes. We didn't bring you these answers before now for multiple reasons. Most importantly is the fact that as soon as we spend thousands of hours writing them down, the cat ball then go into an absolute unsleeping, possessed frenzy to erase it out of existence. So the more time between its writing and the peak of the stellar activation cycle, the more chance you will wind up getting your hands on a corrupted version of that report, and will never even know what was supposed to be in the real one. Another reason is that humanity has not been ready to hear such things until now. Just a few decades ago, even suggesting there were such things as aliens would result in your being remanded to a rubber room and absolutely silenced. Now, thousands of UFO photos and live videos have surfaced. Even the most comatose sleeping sheep can no longer deny the concept that we are not alone. The collective is waking up and seeing with their own eyes that something has been amiss. So, as you can see, we literally were unable to do this before now. And even now, there will only be a few kids in the class that will hear us, and the rest will simply flunk the grade because they are paying more attention to their Facebook picture of their lunch they are uploading than to the incoming motherships in the sky. So how have we been seeing our transition working exactly? The average person who claims to be awake and are calling everyone else around them sheep will explain it like this. You have to learn to love everyone, stop thinking of yourself as an individual, and never cast negative realities before yourself, because you create your own reality. And that description really does identify an incredibly awake student indeed, because most don't understand that you literally do create your own world every second you go through your day, and that is an advanced level of understanding. But that description skips over the meat of the meal in a rather wholesale manner, because avoiding ugliness in the quest to maintain a positive attitude that will cast a positive future keeps you blind. Amen. The process of ascension is truthfully based on one thing, and that is authenticity. Yes! If you are denying unpleasant issues from pushing their way into your thought process, then you are literally acting like a positive attitude cancels out unwanted reality. And while you do cast your own reality, it is only within the limitations of being in manifest form among billions of others who are in contract with you to share that reality. Mankind shares a single disconnected mind since the destruction of Terra and the Tyrannusium 1 project 500 million years ago, so that your neighbor does. So what your neighbor does is literally your own actions. That means that what he does affects your now, and it affects your karma recoil as well. When he sets up a child fishing scheme to lure kids down to his basement, it is literally part of your own world, regardless of how positive your attitude remains or what you wish to manifest, because he is an extension of you and an extension of your now. It is lengthy to explain, but it is covered in my new report. Essentially, your neighbor's karma is your karma. His world is your world, and vice versa, at least to some degree, because you are forced to share a single awareness fractalized into 7.5 billion parts. When you refuse to do what you are able to in order to help everyone around you grow up, and you refuse to learn what is really going on in the basement next door, or the child trafficking of millions of innocent kids around the world, you are allowing it to continue by tacit consent to be part of your reality. This is a very real agreement between you and your captors that includes your free will condonement of the paradigm that continues here. What is going to shock most of those who consider themselves awakened is the fact that by refusing to accept the reality around your own real-life world, it is your finger on the gun that blows the brains out of the children in Syria today. You are doing that. Not the one guy with a semi-automatic rifle who is screaming something about how his actions are not just condoned by, but dictated by God himself to rid the planet of that cancer. And how could that be? Because you worry about the drug dealer down the road from your house as if it is the one earth-shattering thing that is wrong with society, while refusing to educate yourself on what is really happening, where hundreds of thousands are being sacrificed in the bloodiest ritual ceremony being carried out in broad daylight in recent past, believing that if you simply project a world around yourself that has no visual bloodshed and destruction in your daily life, then you are creating your reality. But it does not work that way, because you are sharing one awareness together. Either you will collect all the pieces of your mind back to wholeness so it can work in cooperation to move one foot in front of the other, or you will, as a collective body, be unable to walk. The human body is a sending and receiving antenna. Yes, Your torus field is powered by electromagnetic energy that comes from eating, recharging in sunlight, and drinking liquid crystal energy we call water. Your Merkaba torus field silently tells everyone and everything around you at all times what you are thinking and what you care about. Those torus plasma fields tell everything around them what they are thinking and what you are thinking at the same time. In less than a second, every particle in the entire world knows what you are holding as your truth. And if you avoid the reality of what is going on in an ethnic cleansing halfway around the world from you as if it doesn't exist, then all the other particles of the reality field will continue to act like that religious satanic ceremony that is masquerading under the counterfeit term of war doesn't really exist. So there's nothing the ether has to do in order to correct it. Your awareness either commands the ether to put a stop to certain things or it doesn't. The ether is not here to impose its will on you. It is here to impose your will on the reality of your own world. Once the 100th monkey learns how to wash his food in water in order to remove the gritty sand from it, then all the monkeys carrying that exact genetic frequency of blood DNA will know how to wash theirs. That's because they share a genetic frequency spectrum that quantum entangles them to one another so that the species can survive. One bird in the flock sees the danger, and the entire flock suddenly turns at the same 1,000th of a second together, as if it were one bird, due to the exact same thing. At one time, the angelic human was aware they were part of their entire collective, and if one knew something, they all knew that same thing. Mental telepathy was erased from your genome in the Babylon massacre long ago, when your cellular language was disconnected, leaving every human hybrid on the planet totally suspended in their awareness from one another that used to tell you if someone needed help or somewhere to avoid danger. As long as that telepathic ability remains unplugged, you will continue to act like you don't know that your species is supposed to survive together and not kill and not eat each other. And it can reconnect again, but not as long as you continue to refuse to think like your neighbor is simply another fractal of yourself. And by neighbor, I mean the people dying today in Syria, not just Buck and Mary in the next house. When the 100th monkey experiment is replayed with new groups of monkeys, there are always young monkeys and old monkeys. The young monkeys all start washing their food the same way long before the old monkeys do, because the old monkeys are of the opinion that what has worked up till now works and there is no need to change. You are being affected by this older you, the older you are, and the more ego you embrace that tells you to ignore the evolution of awareness around you. Old dogs can learn new tricks if those dogs want to continue to learn and become smarter, wiser, and more aware. Only when they have given up do they refuse to follow higher frames of understanding. By ignoring this war that has been raging out of control for years already, by ignoring the overwhelming genocidal attack happening in your skies around the world in chemtrails, ignoring the fact that Fukushima radiation was already an extinction level event 5 years ago, had it not been slightly abated by other beings, ignoring the fact that all your entertainers are being preyed upon by the cabal, forcing them into blood contracts that require them to murder innocent children in order to sing or perform for the masses. By ignoring all these things because it is uncomfortable for you to hear about, your broadcast antenna isn't sending out the signal that there is a problem the ether needs to deal with. If you want to create a world where there is no suffering, then you must not continue to act like you are alone here, creating your one single personal reality and allowing all the rest of your species that is sharing your now combined DNA to suffer and die as if it's their problem and not mine. You are still acting like you are alone in this world, which means that you are personally extending this recycle paradigm. You are doing that. I explained this to you 100 times. You are supposed to stand together as a single unit in order to fulfill your mission agreements. I explained this is a war and we are dying and being crucified behind the scenes, that our contact needs to escape to a location where she can openly begin educating you, and you act like I am talking to the next one on the email list, not you. The next person reading that on Facebook, not you. someone else, someone else, someone else, as if the next person can crawl into your head and drive your avatar around so you begin taking action to make things actually happen. What does it mean when you hear stand together as one? Anyway, do you process that like, okay, if I get that inheritance that has been held up in court for 6 years by my insane siblings, then I will send $20 and do my part? Or do you hear, well, if my kids don't need help with the college tuition, I will forward $30 to this effort? Do you realize that all species are designed with a hive mind that enable that species to survive against all odds, and without it, they will all perish? You are coming out of a very, very long and very deep sleep, awakening now for the first time in possibly 500 million lifetimes, and are just now becoming aware of what a hive mind is. The only reason you even had this concept coming into your mind is because indigos have been telling you that your captors share a hive mind, and that's why they're invincible. So reptilians have hive minds, which is not just bad, but terrifying. But realize that you were created with a hive mind, and other species physically disconnected it from working so that they could isolate you and conquer you with ease. The hive mind is necessary to survive, not just something that lizard people have. It now comes to you to realize that as long as you remain isolated in your thinking, you will never elevate your frequency to tune into the channel that the rest of your body is operating on, so you will continue not to feel their pain. That obviously makes their situation their problem and not mine. As if you can just survive all alone in a world filled with carnivores that eat the flesh your avatar just so happens to be made out of. How long is that going to work for you? Maybe another 4 years, 14 years, 40 years? And then what? Recycle again. Whew. You have one chance, and I do mean one last chance, to realize that your species is being exterminated. Like your finger being blown off, then your toe, then your ear, one by one in little increments, and you sit there sampling the wine and brie, ignoring the fact that you are physically dying. You are dying. You will continue to die as long as you refuse to realize that it isn't a Syrian baby being murdered today. It is your baby. It is your baby that is going to die today. Part of yourself. And why? Because you avert your eyes to the videos. You avert your ears from the reports. You tweet about your kitty that is rolling on the floor with a ball of string while your baby is being blown into vapor in a country you don't consider yours. I hate to break it to you, but you were born on this planet. This is your only world. You do not get another world if you cannot take care of the one that you have already been given. And you are going to go out on your ranch and spend 2 years building your child their own house in order for them to have a nice home of their own if they are setting fire to the home that you made for yourself. No, you are going to tell him to get out and don't come back. We gave you this world. We gave you a physical body that took trillions of years to perfect so you could drive around the most spectacular physical form you could think of. And you repay us by smearing it with tattoos, eating poison, and polluting your one home as if we're going to give you more. Really? Your captors are more than happy to give you another counterfeit avatar for your next 5 seconds of existence if you are happy with that, just like you have 500 million times before, because you continue to act like you are entitled to live any way you damn well feel like. Your 12-strand DNA, angelic human Christos, divine blueprint genetics are still inside your counterfeit body here, and they are just waiting for you to allow them to assemble the same Oraphim Elohim Holy Grail avatar for you once again. Because it is eternal. It will never die. It can only be corrupted if you allow that to happen, and you have. Over and over and over again. Going on now into infinity. You didn't lose your eternal life avatar. You corrupted it to look like and function like it does now by refusing to stand under your own authenticity and refuse to bend your knees to others who seek to enslave you. Your blueprint is still there. If you don't think so, then realize it was built on the hexagram genetic scalar vibrational science you now call the Star of David. But it was not their star, it was your star. And when you cut open one of your DNA cells, you will still see it right there, just waiting for you to allow it to manifest as it had been designed to. This is your genetic blueprint under an electron scanning microscope, if you don't believe me. And there's an image. It is your tacit consent to be treated like slaves by virtue of the fact that you refuse to take responsibility for the world around you. You can't cast your own wonderful reality by allowing your fellow fractals of God's source to die like dogs face down in the rocks of Syria without a second thought, because you literally don't care. So why would the ether care? Your thoughts create sparks. Those sparks create a song that is broadcast from your beating heart, which is your drum that sends the signal to the next Taurus field that relays that song to the next one and the next one. They can hear that song, and then the ether around you, the ether particles around them, and the ether particles around all beings on the planet hear your song and take action to make your world exactly what you want your world to be like. But they will never hear a damn thing about your baby dying in Syria like a rodent as long as your thoughts create zero sparks regarding that situation. Not looking is not seeing. Not seeing is not caring. You don't care, the ether doesn't care. So refusing the hard truth, refusing to sit down and learn about the hidden tools of enslavement that your captors have used against you since your time began on this playing field, only ensures that the prison bars will never ever come down. If you know how they are broadcasting those bars to the ether, who are then casting them into reality, and you don't want those bars there, then the ether will do something about it. But as long as you act like your 10 square blocks surrounding your house is perfectly fine to make up your entire world you are happy with, then your 10 square blocks will be acceptable as the entire scope of your reality. And that's all. You will never put an end to the genocide going anywhere outside of those 10 blocks because you refuse to even look at what is happening there as if it is someone else's problem, someone else's world, someone else, not me. Here's what occurred to me in such vivid clarity while adding that final images to the pages of my report. We will never move forward. Not now, not during the next lifetime, not in 100 million lifetimes, as long as we continue to act like we are islands and we can win this war alone. Your species has been abducted and imprisoned. Your species. You live in a terrarium. Your walls are just over that sand pile. As long as you are happy with the terrarium, that's the world you will have, because we sure as hell aren't going to make a whole new world that takes billions of years to perfect and then hand it to you so you can do the same thing there as you did here, living like you are a princess that can't be bothered with things that upset your delicate sensitivities. And I am sure you don't like being spanked across the bottom now any more than I like it when I get it slapped by the council because I'm not getting it. You get this one spanking, but I have gotten dozens, hundreds of them, and I get them on a constant, never-ending basis because I came to this position unprepared to hear about the innumerable atrocities that actually exist in our world that I have been diverting my eyes from all along. As long as I refuse to see, they are unwilling to help me to get anywhere other than here, where I have allowed my own world to fall into absolute destruction. If you think a planet like Terra just simply magically appears one fine day without trillions and trillions of years worth of trillions of incredibly advanced sciences to make all those flowers and trees and fish, then you are living in a total dream state. We made those birds. We designed those roses. We genetically engineered every single thing on this planet out of photons you know nothing about because you are happy just knowing how to write up a business report and collect a paycheck so you can get back to the beach this weekend and have another barbecue while your own kind lay dying in pools of blood in a land you don't consider to be yours. Well, guess what? Until you start acting like this is your world, you don't have a world. You will have a tiny little cubicle of space you call your world while you're trapped eternally, just like fish who think they are free because they can see the hole through the glass. New Age ostriches are the real sheep because they are the ones who were commissioned to be here as your way showers and are flatly refusing to do what they have entered into covenant with millions of beings who are here now physically, with boots on the ground, behind enemy lines, and overseeing the war from across the veils, all counting on them to come under their own authenticity and take action. Now, right now, this is it. The long cycle is over. There will be no Act 2. This is the closing scene. I have given you access to the truth that has been utterly absent from this playing field until during this eternal enslavement. And if you choose to just let it sit there on some server talking to itself instead of educating you about how to move forward, if you continue to refuse to take responsibility for your world, your mission, your fight, then there will be no way for me to ever reach you. We have someone who has agreed to act as a mission guide on behalf of the Phelan Guardian Alliance, who merely needs to move from one place on this planet to a different area where she will be able to give us the tools to really take the stand we must take in order to actually overcome the unthinkable level of technology that has kept us sealed off from reaching victory for 550 million years. And yet we just let her sit there on her hands as if she is supposed to save us all because she owes us that. Let me tell you one thing right now, and on no uncertain terms. She is not here to save you. She is not here to save me. She is here to witness and report. Only from the kindness of her heart is she even offering to suffer even more harm than she already has in order to teach us what we can actually do once we finally realize that this is our world. It is our reality. In order to change that reality, we must think further than 10 square blocks from our own little cocoons and take a stand. And that stand is the collective power of 7.5 billion who would be able to defeat any attack from anyone, anywhere, if we merely stood together as one, as we had been designed to do from the outset. To think and act like we are a species that must pull together if we are going to stop the cancer. The lazy deer that lags behind the pack is choosing to be eaten by wolves. The lazy human who thinks it is too much to ask to educate themselves about what is really going on so their heartbeat can be heard by the ether to take action is actually bring about the change is literally choosing to recycle again, cognitively. In a few short months, this campaign will be over and you can return to believing there is no such thing as end times. There is no such thing as someone who is able to help you break free. There is no such thing as bringing actual change to a broken world, and you can simply go right back to your peaceful sleep where nothing you don't want to exist will be part of your own personal reality. Until the Syrian Wars knocks on your door on Pleasant Street and comes into your home dressed in riot gear, armed to the teeth to prove to you that your globe is one globe, and as long as you live on it, you live in their prison. That's when your attention will finally focus. When you come together and lock arms, you form a shield where everyone stands upright and facing the danger as one, like adults. The danger will have to get through the entire collective in order to break that line. That line will be made up of people who are all holding one another up and holding one another from breaking form. When arms are around your fellow man, their knees are unable to bend without bringing down the whole line with them. Something that cannot happen unless they all agree to subjugation as a choice. You cannot ever die. You can be taken from this one body and placed into another one, but you will not even register a single second between the two because your awareness never dies. It never takes a break. It never sleeps. The only way out of this enslavement is to realize this and accept that if you must sacrifice this avatar in order to break free, then that is what you are prepared to do. Because I can promise you right now, you will not be moving away from this reality until you finally let go of your material world attachments and resolve to make any sacrifice necessary in order to reach your God-given right to be free. I warn you to prepare for change. You call me a fearmonger. I warn you that you are up against odds that are far beyond impossible unless you assemble yourselves as a team and you say that you are busy with picking up the kids from school. I warn you that we are only here for a very short time and you reply under your breath that I am just another snake oil salesman who is there to trick you into parting with your money and that is too dear to you to give up. When we leave, I do not want to hear your pleas for help through your clasped hands. Save it for Amun-Ra, who will still be listening and serving you more agony instead of answers because you expect someone else to do what would have to be done in order to effect the change you are praying for. As long as you continue to hear my voice, you will have access to the door. When that voice is gone, it will be gone. This was written by this Avalon Sol. S-O-L. I do not know that person, but I intend to find that person as soon as I'm done with this recording. Because that's my wavelength. That's my message. That's my downloads. Everything they said, that's true. It's true for me. And if you're listening to my voice, then it's probably true for you too. Those words were true. It is true we can affect the ether this way. It is true that our heart, what we push out from our avatars, affects the ether. We've got to operate more knowingly this way. I hope that you were edified by this, and I hope that you learned something from this, and I hope that you listened to it several times. Listen to it over and over and over. We are on a mission. We have a job to do, and the time is right now. I know this is true because I've downloaded all of this. This is true. I love you guys.